Okay, here we have Mr. Harvey Vander. Mr. Vander is about an 11 index. He chops that up to having a couple really good rounds in the last couple months where he broke 80 a couple times in a row. But overall, he's about a high 80s, low 90s kind of golfer. Just looking to, much like kind of the rest of my students, just wants to get overall more consistent. He does have a score goal in mind, would like to get more into that mid-80s kind of range, where a good round has the potential to shoot low 80s pretty consistently and stay away from those numbers that are closer to 90. And making those changes for him specifically is going to be in his short game area. We don't have any real videos for that, but we'll definitely have some there as he fights a little bit of a kind of a yippy motion where he's just very uncomfortable, a lot of confidence loss and things like that in his short game. So that's something that we're going to address. But we did take a good look at his full swing, just come up with a couple things we can do to help that. As you can see already just looking at his grip, very strong grip player, very square-to-square style of play, creates a lot of speed, and we don't really want to reinvent the wheel here. He is, getting closer to the age of 70, and with that in mind, there's really no need to try and change the grip and change everything here. Let's just kind of take what we have and let's just make it better. So we took a really good look at his posture and things like that, and also trying to create a little bit more of a jump motion rather than trying to teach flexibility, mobility, things like that might be a little bit harder to come by. We kind of took what he already had, which was he's got a lot of speed, a lot of good motions there, and he kind of moves up and down a little bit as it is. So we tried to make it a little bit better, and I think the result was really good. We got him a little bit more launch, a little bit more height, and in turn a little bit more distance without really making any massive changes. So number one here was his posture. So we look here on the right one. The right one was the no bueno. This one is his first swings. You can see shoulder to shoulder there. A pretty severe tilt there. That's something you would see almost in a power move with a driver. Whereas you look on the left there, just a little bit more square on, a little bit closer. He felt there like his right shoulder was almost above his left. You can see it's still not quite there, but that's still extremely better, a much more sound position. And we're kind of go into why that's such a big help. And then initially too, he had this initial very leading big shaft lean there going on. We talked about kind of bringing that back a little bit more neutral, right? Kind of more like that. So a lot of these positions here are built to create a little bit more height and also a little bit better release through impact, because the whole motion is cause and effect. So he's setting up with shoulders tilted severely back and hands forward. So he's got two competing factors going on there, which just leads to a lot of inefficiencies. So now we'll look at the right one here first. So as we go up to the top, so let me draw a line first. Here is body line there, body line there. Good little lateral move to the top to build up some speed, but there's the top of his backswing right there, right? So he creates a little bit of speed and a little bit of a lateral motion, but there just isn't a lot of turn, a lot of completion there. Whereas now you look at the left here, just by changing that initial setup, we draw a line there, a little straighter. And another line on the left. Now we take a look at the backswing. Much bigger motion, right? So immediately, just by having a better posture and a better setup with those hands back a little bit and a better tilt, he was able to create more turn. By having less initial tilt in the setup, there was less effort to get to the top of his backswing. It was a little bit more free. The left arm bent, no issues there because he sets the club in a really nice spot. And you can just see here there's more turn, there's more motion, there's more movement in his lower body. He's creating a lot more power, a lot more torque in that initial takeaway, which is really, really good. The downswing, still something that we're going to be working on, but his motion and swing thought was to try to feel a little bit of an initial almost squat, if you will, where he really brings that club in a little bit. So if we bring this up to his head here. As he did like to stand up just a little bit at impact, and just something that he's always going to fight a little bit. I have no problem with him standing up at impact. We had just discussed feeling an initial borderline dip or almost a squat into the golf ball. So that way the jump or that lift through impact is a little bit more sound, it's more crisp, and it's more actually in line with the club. When all you're doing is lifting, that's inefficient. But if you feel a little bit of a down motion followed by a lift, that's a really good position that creates a lot of power and actually a lot more efficiency as well. So on the downswing here, head stays pretty stable, but you can see just a very small lift there, whereas before the motion was lifting up just a little bit more. So you can just see a little bit more of his head, or hat rather, kind of working up out of that spot. So a big motion change as far as driving down a little bit, but you can see a little bit of a better result. And then my favorite part here, if we kind of clear everything, is just the finish in general. So you can see much longer, much more through the golf shot, a lot freer. The motion on the left is actually going to be a much more sustainable long-term motion for him from a health position, as that's a taller, easier finish, more balanced, more in line, and it all just came from having a much better setup here, more turn, a little more athleticism through impact, nice tall finish. So continue to work on that setup, Mr. Vander Baan, and overall you're going to start seeing, hopefully hitting it a little bit further, a little bit straighter, and then we'll get that short game cleaned up.